The next item on the agenda is resolution number 18-2022. This is setting the annual salary for the Wicomico County Executive.
Thank you, Mrs. Serling. Entertain a motion from council to approve resolution number 18-2022.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion. Mr. Holloway, yes.
Yes, I need to push my button here. I know at the last meeting there wasn't a consensus to go with the 124,000. So I would like to make an amendment that we move that to 100,000 for the 2022 through 2026 term of office for the county executive.
There's a motion to amend resolution 18-2022 to 100,000. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Thank you, Mr. Howell. I appreciate that. I guess the reason that the resolution had 124, of course, because that's what was the initial recommended that was given to us. I think there would be some debate among council members as far as what is fair for the county executive's position and what is not. We do have Michelle Wright here from the committee if you would want to come forward. Just so the council knows and the public knows, Memo Derricker is the chair, but he was not able to attend. He was ready to come in on the March meeting when we decided to move it back to February. He couldn't make it, so Ms. Wright has been very made herself very accessible to us so that she could come in today and in case anyone had any questions and to sort of reiterate the position of the committee. Good morning. How are you? Thank you very much for coming in.
Okay. I am not Memo, so I am not going to try to be him this morning. I did have some comments from him, though, because he's teaching this morning, and that's why he couldn't be here. And then our co-chair, Vic Laws, he had a client this morning, so he couldn't be here either. So here I am. So I just wanted to share, first of all, the comments from Memo. The first statement is the Wicomico County Compensation and Allowance Commission examined 7 different scenarios for the county executive compensation recommendations, considering a significant number of relevant factors that influence current and future compensation decisions. Excluding the private sector compensations for similar size organizations, the highest comparable compensation level using the blended government parity model was $140,000 to $152,000 range for the county executive's position. Given the Wicomico County's revenue cap experience and other sensible economic and fiscal policies, the Commission elected unanimously to take a conservative approach by reducing the recommendations to $124,000 for the county executive position. Please note that this number does not incorporate the expected inflation impacts over the next 4 years. Based on current and projected inflation numbers, the recommended compensation of $124,000 for the county executive would have to be increased to over $153,000 by 2025, which is the next time the new Compensation and Allowance Commission would meet, just to keep up with the expected increase in the cost of living in the market. Any reduction of the county executive compensation below the amount currently recommended by the Commission would exacerbate the problem by tens of thousands of dollars, making a much more significant adjustment later. Reduction of the recommended compensation level is a short-term policy option with limited fiscal benefits. A higher return on the public's investment in this position could be realized by asking the county executive to endeavor to improve county budget effectiveness and efficiency by a certain amount. The yield of even a 0.25% improvement of the budget would add close to $500,000 to the county's bottom line. Electing a justly compensated high-caliber county executive would significantly increase the odds of such an improvement to the budget. So with that being said, you know, the commission was created by you. You asked us to serve on this committee. This was a new experience for me. It was an eye-opener, and I was honored to be able to serve. Looking over all the information that was presented to us, we looked at other counties within Maryland. We looked at, you know, what does the job entail? What are the expectations? what are the demands of the job? Looking at it in 2006, when this job was actually started, the salary was set at $85,000. That's 16 years ago. And there's been no change to that salary. As I was trying to think through this morning, actually, of, how can that be? In 2006, it was created. 4 years later, it's reviewed. That puts us into 2010. The recession started in 2008, so we're in the middle of the recession. Take 4 years from that, we're now into 2014, 2018. No changes were made. And some of you were on the council, and I can't speak to those reasons why no changes were made, but here we are 16 years later, and there's been no change. So then the discussion took place, well, how do you catch up from that? What is a fair increase that the taxpayers feel is fair and justified? We've been kicking this can down the road, and for 16 years, we've not kept up, so now we're behind. So, in our discussions, and I would have to say that I think everybody would agree that we had some really good conversations about that. How do you catch up? And at some point, you have to make the leap. You have to make the jump. And so, also as a part of that, if we had taken the initiative over the last 16 years and done the gradual increases, we wouldn't have this huge increase now. If we had done what other businesses do, typically you get an annual pay increase. And they range, but some of them are 2, 3, 4, 5%. If we had done a 3% or even less than 3% increase over that same time period, those 16 years, it would have been a $2,400 increase each year. We wouldn't be feeling this heavy impact that we're recommending to you today. The other thing I wanted to add is that I appreciate the council members that I saw on Saturday who tried to correct some statements that were not true statements. This commission, as I said, was created by you. The work was done for you. It wasn't done for the county executive. It wasn't done for the sheriff. It wasn't done for you as council members as far as your salaries. This was done as a commission and as a group. And on Saturday, there were some comments made that the county executive is trying to give itself a pay increase, and that is not the case. The commission did the work that you asked us, and I appreciate those of you that spoke up to try to correct that misinformation that's
What
set
was
out.
Saturday?
There was a town hall meeting down at West Side that I attended.
Okay.
I wanted to thank you guys for stepping up and making sure that there's accurate information put out there. Let's see, I think I've covered most of it. As you know, the county executive has an annual budget responsibility of $160 million. I don't need to repeat how many employees you guys are responsible for, but we did look at other counties, and like I said, we tried to figure out what we thought was fair pay for the job and expectations of our county executive.
That's right. Appreciate that. Comments, not necessarily questions, but comments. Yes, Bill.
Yeah, a couple comments. First of all, Michelle, thanks for being with us today, and thanks to all the members. I find it interesting, and I think you mentioned this in the onset, but the recommendation you made was unanimous by the commission. And like I say, we appointed, every one of us were appointed the folks to serve on this commission. I know 4 years ago when the recommendation was made, it was a very similar recommendation from a different commission, and it was unanimous. I know 4 years prior to that, which now we're back 8 years, I served on that commission, and a similar recommendation was made. It was unanimous. I mean, this is 3 times in a row that the commission, made up of different, a few people have carried over a few times on the commission, but it's a different commission every time. But they've unanimously came back with the same recommendation. The dollars have varied a little bit, but it's been a significant increase to be where it should be. What's more interesting, we just sat through the salary presentation from Bolton, and they took their survey was representative of 12 counties. You always want your, and they emphasize the fact that that enabled them to look at 3,700 employees. In any survey, you're looking for as large of a sample pool that you can. And I know there's going to be some discussion here in a minute. People are going to compare us to Cecil County, for example. That's one comparison. That's not a sample pool. And, you need to look at it as large, which is what the commission did. The commission looked at a large sample. And the recommendation, getting back to Bolton's recommendation of trying to put our employees in the 50 percentile, kind of in the middle of the range, you've actually come back with a recommendation that's below what would be the middle of the range. You came back with a very conservative recommendation, which we appreciate. Just with those things said, I mean, the commission's done a very, very credible job, and I certainly appreciate that, and I certainly hope we adopt your recommendations.
And just to piggyback on that a little bit, I did talk to a couple of folks that served on the commission 4 years ago, and it was unanimous. They said that they came in close to the same figures as what we did for this recommendation. They look at it as they're volunteers. You guys trusted them to do a job. They did it, came forward with what they thought was a fair recommendation, and didn't have, little to no action. So, we're hoping that with the commission that served this time, that you were willing to be open and really consider the time and effort and discussions that we had, and that you will take it. I know you will take it seriously, but just really take it hard what we're recommending as being the best option.
Yes, Josh.
I would say, when I was thinking back on, well, first of all, thank you, by the way, for serving. Thank you for the other folks who are serving on this. When I think back to the creation of why did Wicomico County create a county executive? Why is it that we have that? And there's a simultaneous thing that we kind of created in that same time span, that was the revenue cap. Those situations were a reaction because for years the county council didn't do what it's supposed to do, which was, help lift the tax up. At one point in time, we held off for so long to raise taxes for what our needs were that in 1 year we did it all. We took the Band-Aid off, and it was and in doing so, it was there was a major reaction in the county. And that set forth the process for a revenue cap, as well as thinking better fiscal responsibility. We needed a county executive. The whole idea of holding off for something that you should do for some time can be problematic when you eventually pull that Band-Aid off. Did I hear you correctly when you said if we wait for 4 years with current inflation, that would be $153,000 for a salary?
Yes, that's from Memo's statement. Do you want me to read that for you again? This is based on current projected inflation numbers, the recommended compensation of $124,000. The county executive would have to be increased over $153,000 by 2025, which is the next time our new compensation and allowance commission would meet, just to keep up with the expected increases in cost of living in our market.
Yeah, so I would just say that's the current motion on the table is $100,000, so that's a $53,000 difference in salary. I think that's quite substantial, even as a percentage of the current expected salary. So I guess I'll just leave it at that. I do think that's a large cap. I appreciate your time, and I do think this group should go forward with recommendations. When we go forward with a formal process, we should go forward with those recommendations. But thank you.
Ms. Ackman?
Michelle, thank you so much for serving. You are so kind to me and helping me with so many different things. I really appreciate you doing this. And I completely agree with you. It is very unfortunate that we're in this predicament now, that we need to raise the county executive's salary, the large increase, right? I think this should have been done 4 years ago, 8 years ago, so we're on par. But with what we're currently proposing at $100,000, not the $85,000, that would give them a 75 or 17% increase of their salary. And so I think moving forward, recommendation to future councils, I'm not going to be here, but to really take this seriously and increase in proper increments. So thank you.
Yep.
Michelle, thank you for serving. I'll tell you, like I told the two people I asked to serve, I probably wasn't going to agree with them when they went in. So,
I can
you
agree
know,
to disagree.
yeah, I did make the recommendation amendment. Asked for the amendment. That is a 17% increase. It's not like we're not doing anything here. And believe me, I've heard from enough people in the past couple of weeks that's not happy with that. You know, they're saying, why are we doing this? Well, I guess I know John said comments, not question. Am I allowed to ask questions, John? Or?
I think so.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I'm not
All
going to
right.
restrict you, Joe.
Okay.
Sure.
If I have the answer.
I know better.
We didn't see in the minute. Push my button, they won't give me a live mic. We didn't see the data that was used in the minutes. You know, seeing the conversations. What counties did you use for comparables
We looked at all of them across the whole state.
across the whole
Yes,
state?
yes, we got the reports, all the spreadsheets. We looked at
Okay.
every county.
Well, I know Bill mentioned Cecil County, and Cecil County is closest related to us as far as population, pay,
Yeah,
everything, pretty much. And that's kind of what I'm basing a lot of my thoughts on. And I know you all use Frederick County, and we talked the last meeting extensively about Frederick County. The council did. You know, Frederick County so far outweighs Wicomico. Medium household income, $103,000. Wicomico County, $56,000. Now, these are numbers I got off the internet, so I hope they're right. Per capita income, $44,000. Wicomico County, $28,000. Population in Frederick County is 259,000. And population in Wicomico is 102. The interesting one is the poverty rate. Frederick's is 6%. Ours is 14%. Their operating budget's over $700,000 a year. And ours is less than $200,000. So there's a lot more responsibility, and the county executive there, you know, doesn't make a great lot more than what you guys are recommending. We're recommending, you know, the 100,000. We're actually recommending a lot more than, or some more than what Cecil County is recommending. But the other thing I want to point out, we just had this meeting with the Bolton, and they didn't use the rest of the state. They only used the Eastern Shore. They used the Eastern Shore as a compatible, and Cecil County, of course, was included in that because that's who we compete with. We compete more with the Eastern Shore, and I mentioned that. And the Eastern Shore's, that's who we hire from. That's where most of our employees, unless they move down here. In fact, you'll hear employees say, or people say, they moved to the Eastern Shore and didn't realize the pay was that much less. You know, so a couple other things I wanted to mention here, but I think the executive salary at $100,000 is a good jump. What's recommended is a 46% increase, and I think that really gave a lot of people heartburn. So I would know we got a second on that. So
Can I just make one comment?
Yes.
You know, you always think about things after the fact, but, you know, thinking about our county and how we haven't made any changes in 16 years, I'm wondering if some of these other counties have been in similar situations. You know, and when was the last pay increase for some of those salaries? When was our last compensation review? You know, have they held off too? Have they, you know, there's the questions now that I ask myself, maybe I should have looked more into.
well, Cecil County and Frederick County has had increases in the past year or so.
They have.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
But like I said, you know, the commission, we looked at what we thought was the job that's being asked as of, you know, today for our county executive position. You know, we feel like we've done our homework. We came up with a recommendation, and we realized that, you know, it's up to you to either accept that recommendation or to do something in between or nothing at all. And we respect that as well, so.
Well, I appreciate the in-between part. One thing I did want to bring up, we're forgetting about the main ingredient here, I think, is the people that pay the bills. you know, the taxpayers. We're seeing inflation rates at, I think, 7.5% right now. I was looking through some data the other day. The Wharton School of Business for the University of Pennsylvania says it's costing the average family $3,500 or more a year to live right now. And all this money, whatever we're spending sitting up here, I know we just talked about giving employees raises, and I know we need to stay competitive, but all this money comes from the taxpayer. It doesn't come from the money tree out front. And I think bringing this salary up, I mean, I'm probably going to catch grief from some of my constituents about even talking about raising $15,000. But I think bringing it up is more than fair to $100,000. Thank you, and thanks again for serving.
Larry, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I do have a comment. Michelle, thank you for serving, and thank you for being here today. I always enjoyed working with you on the Board of Education. You did a good job, and I think you did your homework then. So on what Councilman Holloway said about the increase and the motion, I made a second because personally I would like to see the county executive position get some kind of increase, and then instead of this falling flat. And I do agree it should have been done, an increase should have been done in 2017, and it wasn't. It wasn't done for the sheriff either. So hopefully today we can get some kind of increase.
What I would like to say, Joe, I appreciate your step on that 17%. I know how you are, so I appreciate that. Keep in mind that the 17% increase is really reflective of someone who hasn't had a pay increase in 16 years. So I think you have to really consider, if you haven't had a pay raise in 16 years, what exactly should the expectations be? I did some really kind of quick math, and considering something else too, you have an executive who, you know, we're looking at paying $124,000. The county administrator currently is at about $126,000. This pay scale is not only for this year, but this goes through 2026 because we can't give a cost of living increase. So what we're looking at isn't just a pay raise for 2023, it's for 24, 25, and 26. And I did the math on the executive. From 2006, it's been 16 years. At that time, it was $85,000, which it still is, right? So if you were to say, what would the executive be making today if we were, let's say, to give the executive a 3% increase annually? How does that break out? If you were to do that math, by 2023, it would be $140,500 if we'd had the same executive in office and that executive were getting an increase of 3% a year. So I think, you know, when we look at 100,000 or when we look at 124,000, you're looking at a number of $140,500, and we're actually saving money from where it would have been with just a simple 3% raise to 2023, forgetting the fact that in 2026 you'd probably be closer to 150,000, which is where this salary is supposed to be taking us to 2026. So we're looking at 124. If it were just the same person in office from 2006, it would be 140.
John, you're missing one point here. This isn't a hard position. It's an elected position. People run for elections because they want to serve. If anybody goes out here and runs for any elected position for what it pays, shame on them. That's not what people should do. They should not run for an elected position because it pays $124,000 or $156,000.
Yeah,
It's an elected position. It's not a hard position.
Right, and Joe, actually, I agree with the fact that people run for elected positions to serve, but at the same time, the executive was put in place so that we would have a CEO that would run Wicomico County, and we're just simply trying to fairly compensate that person for what the job demands. Interestingly, we keep bringing up Bolton study, which, it's a great thing to bring up. And I'll repeat again, you look at as much sample data as you can, which they did. And, I keep hearing people talking about Cecil County. Well, if Bolton had done the same thing and looked at the worst county and the lowest paying county, we wouldn't even be talking about the pay increases that they're talking about. I, for one, don't want to model what we do after the worst county pay-wise for the executive. That certainly doesn't make sense, and that's not a sample. But furthermore, in Bolton's comments they just made in the data they just presented, there's 5 pay grades that are higher than $100,000 in the county, what they just presented. I mean, and we're not even paying our executive. I mean, you can have 5 pay grades, paying people, you know, every department head across the county, and most employees, if they have more than 20, 25 years experience, will be compensated higher than our CEO of the county. So, you know, the recommendation by the commission is very, very reasonable. And as they said right in their letter, it's, you know, very conservative. You know, their data actually showed it should be higher. And in the day, we're just trying to be, to fairly compensate the executive. And the comment was made earlier that, Ms. Ackley, you know, you commented that, you know, we should increase it, and you hope that future councils will do that. Well, we're sitting here today with the opportunity to do that.
Well,
you know, I'm not looking to pass. I'm not trying to pass the torch to a future council. And Ms. Olin just talked about how when they've tried to piecemeal increases in the past, that didn't work. So we shouldn't be sitting here trying to piecemeal either.
Well, and that is why I agreed on 100,000 to increase it.
And Bill?
And I think in any government body, the governor makes less than people below him. The president makes less than people below him.
And at
That's
124,
government.
and at 124, we'll have. I look at that data. There's 3 to 4 pay grades that will be higher, even if we go to 124. So they won't make.
That happens in government.
Our executive will not be making the most in the county at 124 or anywhere close to it.
Yes, and that's statewide, federally, that's a standard in government.
You can't compare the county exec to the president. There's other perks that go along with his position.
I'm not comparing him to the president. I'm comparing him to government bodies.
You're comparing his
to the
pay.
governor.
He doesn't have to pay mortgage. He's get all that taken care of. So you can't compare that to this. Furthermore, let me speak. I am running for the county executive, and I'm not voting on this one way or the other because I'm looking for a pay raise. I'm fairly comfortable with what I make outside of this. This was sent to the Ethics Committee, and I was asked, would it be reasonable for me to vote for or against the salary for the county executive? And the Ethics Commission said, consider the fact that council member is not a currently county executive, and the council member may or may not be elected as county executive in November 2022. In light of these facts, the Ethics Commission does not consider a vote by a county council member to be a conflict of interest, and advise the council member that a vote on the county executive salary increase resolution is permissible. I've been on here 8 years. I was on here when we had the last one. Mike Lewis, sheriff, good friend. The reason why those salaries wasn't approved, it wasn't because we weren't voting for the position, the county executive or the sheriff position. Some of those people was voting for the person, and that's what you gotta get out of your head. Vote for the position. They stated, they did the study as what the county executive does. They didn't have nothing to do with who was running, who the present person is. That's what their study's based on, and that's what we should vote on, along with the sheriff. Mike's a good sheriff. I mean, he hasn't gotten a pay raise. He's along with the county executive. I'm not saying we should give it because it's Mike Lewis. We should give it because of the position, not the person himself.
Thank you. Just one clarification, Ms. Ackley. I'm not sure, in listening to the exchange with you and Mr. McCain, I think what Mr. McCain was trying to say is that even at 124,000, Mrs. Ackley?
Yeah.
Okay. Even at 124,000, what Councilman McCain was trying to say is that there still will be many individuals working in Wicomico County who are making more than that, including his own staff. Okay.
Yes, yeah, I understood that.
Okay, all right, that's one sure. And Joe, I understand what you, go ahead.
Responding to Bill, he made the comment about the commission doing comparables. And Bill, did you do comparables at different counties of how many of their county employees, executive staff made more than the county executive?
Yeah, I looked at, in fact, you said we didn't get any data. We got the entire study. It was in, I think, our last two brief books gave us the entire study. And I read their entire study, and that's what they did.
No, I mean,
I reviewed their information.
So it said
that's how they ended up where they ended up.
So there's.
They didn't pick the lowest ones.
So the county executive, this takes the county, other counties, the county executive makes more than their executive staff?
I don't understand your question.
The county executive makes more than some of the people that works for him, in other words, is what I'm asking.
They make more than some, and they make less than others.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And again, that is the circumstances in Wicomico County. Even at 124,000, he's making less than some of his staff, if that satisfies you, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Understand that.
Okay, yeah. And again, Joe, and I recognize your issue as far as saying, well, this is an elected position. But what I think we can't lose sight of is the fact of whether it's elected or not, it is a full-time job. It's not a temporary job. Council job, we're pretty much part-time. This is very much full-time. And when you go to people sometimes out in the community and you say, look, would you be interested in it? And they say, no, not at all. They're not going to do it, not at that pay. They're not going to do it at $85,000. They're probably not going to do it at $100,000. You're trying to encourage a high-quality individual to that position and attract those type of individuals to that position. And I think that's somewhat of the justification. It's a proper compensation. It's only human nature that they want to be properly compensated for the responsibility it takes to run a county this size. What I would say, I think we're definitely going to be at an impasse with the 100 versus the 124. So I can't propose an amendment really at the table.
Well, I'll just say this.
Yes.
I mentioned this at the last meeting, and it appears we're at an impasse in terms of, because this does require, and this is for public purposes, this actually requires a supermajority vote. So we have to actually have 5 council people to support whatever we pay our executive. We only do that for the executive. But with that said, I will make this suggestion again, and I think it's good governing. Good governing is sometimes you have to compromise. And when we discussed this the last time, we had 4 members that felt we should go with the recommendations from the commission. We had 3 members that were at 100,000. I'm kind of still hearing those same arguments. And with that said, I made a comment, let's compromise. Let's just meet in the middle. And, it's all of us making some conciliatory action to make this work. I mean, end of the day, we all agree it should be more. We all agree it needs to represent the duties of the job. And I think out of fairness, we should respect the work that's been done by the compensation committee. I know we got a amendment. We're going to have to deal with the First Amendment. But
you can, so for council clarification, you can ask for a friendly amendment to what Joe has suggested of 100 if you want to.
Right. Well, that's where I'm trying to. I guess that's where I'm heading to. I'd like to see us do a friendly amendment. I'll use that term, and let's compromise and say $112,000. I mean, it's in the middle. I mean, I just can't see how can we. I can't see how that's more fair.
Bill, we've compromised from 85 to 100. We've already compensated a 17% pay increase.
That is not I mean, once again, I guess you didn't listen at all to the Bolton study.
I listened to every bit of Bolton's study.
Well, it appears not. It says, we're trying to get our, employees. We're sitting here, so we're going to try to get our employees just to the 50th percentile So at least they're making average wages compared to the market, but we're not going to do that with the executive.
Well,
The executive, we're going to make sure, I don't understand this logic of trying to make Wicomico last. Why do we want to be last? Why do we want to be the worst in the state? I just don't get that.
I don't understand why you're saying that, Bill. I really don't. That's an insult to the people of Wicomico County.
Yes, I'm talking about the salary, what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the people of Wicomico County. I'm talking about trying to pay our executive the worst salary. Cecil's at 99, we're basically trying to go to the same thing, and we're trying to model ourselves after the county that pays the worst compensation to their executive. That's what I'm talking about. Don't twist the words. That's what I'm talking about.
We're not the worst. Cecil County makes less than us, and they don't have they're not provided.
99 is what I'm saying.
And they're not provided with the same benefits that our county executive is, so we're not the worst. I just want to make sure that
Why are we
clear.
chasing
We're not
that?
the worst.
Why are we chasing that?
Josh.
I'll just say, I don't think any common American right now, the one thing they want in government is for their government to compromise, to see where problems are at, to see different sides, and to try to meet in the middle. This salary recommendation of $124,000 is not even on the range of where the actual recommendation should have been. Should have been much higher. They figured our county wouldn't be able to do well with anything like that we wouldn't go for that, so they put it at 124. 124,000, even though we should have been by a 3% raise at 143,000, or a couple of years from now we will have to be at 153,000. The recommendation for 124,000 is what this commission has said. The motion on the table is 100,000. Split the difference of 24, that's 12, 112,000. Let's just call it a day, compromise and do the right thing, and we can revisit it in 4 years. I'll make that a motion, or I'll make a friendly amendment to the motion on the table if that's okay.
Yeah, and it's really funny. I think you're both too low. I really do. I thought you were going to say like 117 or something. You're saying 112. Keep in mind, again, this is a salary that's going to float all the way to 2026. That's for the next 4 years.
That's a $156,000 pay increase in 4 years. That's a pretty good pay increase for 4 years, don't you think?
I think to begin with, Joe, I think that that fact that we're still paying $85,000 in 2021, which is the same salary paid 16 years ago, we have a lot of making up to do.
We can change it today.
We can change it today. They're saying 112. I'll go with 112. I don't like it. I'm compromising. I don't like 112, but I'm willing to do that, Joe. And we have 3. We need 5 total to do that. So that's really like where we're heading with this. And it's not really just on you, except for the fact that you made the motion. The process that's going to happen is that either we're going to then vote against the 100,000, which is where this is headed, because we're not going to have 5 votes for it. So we got to try to find something in the middle, or we're going to be stuck with 85,000. And then Cecil County is going to be talking about Wicomico, and they're going to be cutting their salaries. So there is an offer for 112. We have 3 of us that are suggesting that. I don't know if there's anyone else on the board that would like to, on the committee that would like to, or the council that would like to suggest that. Nicole, what's your opinion?
I made the recommendation to come up to 100,000. I think I've made it very clear, my stance and how I feel. There's no reason to perseverate on it.
Ernie? Larry?
I'm going to stick with the 100.
You know where I'm at.
Mm. All right, what? Yes.
If we don't vote on, if we don't do this, it stays at 85.
I understand that.
Okay.
I clearly understand that.
And we're compromising. We're going from 85 to 100. That's a 17% pay increase.
Well, you could have said 86, Joe, and that could be a compromise.
Yeah.
But I don't consider 100,000 a compromise any more than I would 86. Okay. Yes, Josh.
Friendly amendment again, if that's okay. Maybe we could go with. We are the largest county on the Eastern Shore. By population, we are the largest county. We lead. So 110,000. Let's show at least that we're trying to do something bigger and better. 110,000. Compromise. The American way. Who's in?
Well, we still have to. We know exactly, I think, where this is going to lie. We need one of 3 members to agree to 110. Outside of recognizing the fact that if this doesn't come to a solution today, we're going to be at 85, and we're going to stay at 85. We're going to win a battle and lose a war here. So, anybody?
Ms. Ackley, Mr. Dodd, 110,000, that's a compromise? That's more than a compromise.
I compromised to 100,000. I feel like that's, until we can get our employees' salaries up, we're just looking at this, so, you know,
They just did that.
I've already said what I had to say.
Why?
I have nothing else to say.
All those in favor of 100,000, the amendment from Mr. Holloway of 100,000, say I will do a roll call for the 100,000. I'm sorry, Councilman Dodd.
Yes, 100.
On the amendment to 100. Councilman Holloway. Excuse me? I said 100. Yes. Vice President Davis.
No.
Councilman Ackley.
Yes.
Councilman Hastings.
Nay.
Councilman McCain.
No.
The chair votes no. So the amendment from 124,000 to 100,000 fails.
With that said, we'll keep trying here, but you know, as much as I hate to kick this can down the road, I'd make an amendment that we postpone this.
Motion to table?
Or actually postpone.
Motion to postpone, I understand. There's a motion on the table to postpone.
Second.
And there's a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Opposed. Nay.
Chair votes aye. So this has been postponed to our next meeting. All right, thank you very much. Next item on the agenda. Hang on one second. I'm sorry, I got to get back to it. Next item on the agenda is resolution number 19, 2022. Entertain a motion to approve resolution number 19, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Well, I think I jumped ahead of you, Mrs. Hurley. This is a motion setting the annual salary for the sheriff of Wicomico County.
And likewise, if we're going to postpone the executive, I think we should accordingly postpone this as well.
There's a motion to postpone. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Motion to postpone a second. Councilman Ackley?
Nay.
Councilman Hastings?
Aye.
Councilman McCain?
Aye.
Councilman Dodd?
Nay.
Councilman Holloway? Councilman Vice President Davis?
Aye.
Chair votes no. I would not like to, at this time, I do not want to postpone it. I'd like to continue. The motion, would you want to read it, the resolution, please?
Sure. This is setting the annual salary for the sheriff of Wicomico County. The proposed amount, I believe, is $121,000.
Okay, so the resolution is for 2022 is to set the salary for the sheriff of Wicomico County at $121,000. Open for discussion.
I'll just make the same comment I made the last meeting. I can't support paying the sheriff position more than the executive position. And that's why we were trying to get a resolution to the executive position, and that's why I wanted to see it postponed so we find out where we land with the executive position.
Any comments?
I don't know what difference it makes.
But, well, it really does make a difference. Before we take a vote, I think we need to know where we're headed with this. Larry, what's your position on this resolution?
I would like to see us at least give the sheriff 117,000.
Any, I guess, specific reason for that number?
I'd like to make an amendment because I don't want it to be shot down.
But you're okay shooting down the executive.
Two different positions here.
Right, that's what I'm saying, but you're okay shooting down the executive.
Hang on one second.
Again, two
Hang on a
different
second.
positions, Mr. McCain.
And I'll say that again.
We didn't shoot it down, Bill. You know, we raised it $15,000.
May I, just for 1 second, if I could?
Don't forget your microphone, please.
I'm trying to.
Councilman Dodd, are you making that as a comment, or were you suggesting that as an amendment?
It's an amendment.
You want to state that for me?
Yes, I'd like to make an amendment to increase the sheriff's salary to 117,000.
Okay, there's a motion on the table to amend. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a second. Councilman Holloway seconds it. All right, discussion, and we can discuss it on, at 121 or 117, how we choose. Larry, you want to expound on anything at all?
No, I'm good.
Joe?
No.
No. Ernie? I'm not getting very far here. Bill?
Yeah. Like I said, I made my comments, and I'll make the same comment. I mean, it should be postponed, but I cannot support paying the position of sheriff more than the position of county executive.
Understood.
For the record, the current recommendations for folks who are paying attention, it's the county executive salary is $124,000 recommended. This was salary for the sheriff, $121,000. I definitely feel like the sheriff's office, this position should be higher than its current pay. I mean, I think, but I also feel strongly we need to go off of recommendations from a committee that's outside of us. Otherwise, it starts to look, it looks partisan. The process doesn't look good, let alone it doesn't feel good. So I would love to have us be within a very close to the salary of the county executive. That's all I can say.
Councilman Ackley?
And just doing the percentages, it looks like the 117 is coming from the 17% increase that we suggested for the county executive to bring them up to 100,000. Is that where you're getting the 117? Okay. I support that.
And for the record, Mr. President, in 2017, the committee recommended raising it from 95 to 105, and the council majority at the time shot that down.
Okay, so the council and the public is aware this is a 4 vote. It's not a 5 vote supermajority. It's a 4 votes needed to come to this conclusion. Any other discussion on this? Would we like to take a consensus before we take a vote so it's not so final? We're voting on the amendment of 117,000. I'd rather have a consensus before we take a vote. Mr. Holloway? Exactly. Ms. Holloway? Hastings, I'm sorry.
I'll say this fine, but I want to look to my other council members and say that you need to be able to really look at the county executive position. We are going out of our way for compromise, and this is an important position. We are the largest county on the Eastern Shore. We need to be able to act like it, and so it's great to be able to move forward. Our sheriff, that's only part of the equation. So I would love to be able to have the conversation, Mr. Dodd, Mr. Holloway, Ms. Ackley, specifically for the county executive going forward. Let's find a better place to compromise. I don't think the current situation is helpful. So that being said, I'm fine to go forward.
Bill?
I'm opposed.
Ernie?
Because that's not 17%. Exactly, that's not 17%.
What is it?
It's higher than 17%.
What's
17% would put it at 111.
He's making 95 now.
I understand that, Joe.
Okay.
All right. All right, so we have a motion for an amendment and a second for the amount for the annual salary for the sheriff to be set at $117,000. We'll do a roll call, even though we require 4. All those in favor will say aye. Councilman Dodd?
Aye.
Holloway?
Aye.
Davis? Ackley?
Aye.
Hastings?
Aye.
McCain, I know where you are, Bill. McCain?
No.
McCain. Chair will vote aye. So we have 4-2 in favor of adjusting the annual salary for the sheriff to $117,000 a year. 5-2. All right. Thank you for your debate and your insight, council members. We do appreciate the.
Mr. President,
Yes.
if you can just vote on the resolution as amended.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you very much. Wow, that's very good. So.
We're going to get the raise.
Very good. Thank you very much.
We had to finish the vote.
So we voted on the amendment. God, thank you. So now entertain a motion. Well,
A motion.
we need a motion to approve Resolution 19, 2022 as amended.
Motion as amended.
Yes. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed?
Opposed.
And the chair votes aye, so it's 5-2 for Resolution 19, 2022 as amended for setting the salary at $117,000 for the sheriff of Wicomico County. All right, thank you.
I have one last comment.
Yes.
Mr. Davis, no, it's not. 17% would be 116,000.
And some change.
Yes,
Would not
that's
be
95.
116,000.
17%,
Right.
95,000.
Right. That's not 116.
What is it?
I can do my head, is it?
I'll make this disclosure. I'm not a mathematician.
At this time, we open the
I
floor
just
for,
want to be clear, that is true.
this time we open the floor for public comments. If you have any comments to make, please come to the podium, state your name and your county, thank you.
Michelle.
Michelle, thank you very much. At this time, state your name, your county residence, and your concerns or comments. Thank you.
Praise God. To President Cannon, council members, and those assembled, my name is Mary Ashanti. I reside in Wicomico County. I'm not representing any agency or organization today. Two things. One thing I want to just bring to, I guess, I'll read my note. There's a community concern about how African-American students, athletes, are reportedly treated when they are at away games, that they're called the N-word and much more, and that even not only from the opposing team players, but also from the audience, and that the person that reported that said that neither the Wicomico County public school coaches nor the opposing team coaches or referees intervened when this happened. And this reportedly happened on the basketball game away. We in the community and those that have children, African-American children playing on teams and in other places, expect that when we send them to school, they will be protected against racist remarks and harassment. I encourage African-American parents to, as much as possible, go with their children to away games, and also talk to their children and see what is happening with them. The other thing, just sitting here listening to this whole process of raising salaries and that type of thing, I'm trying to think of a word. Word is not so bad. I'm disillusioned. Wicomico is the largest county on the Eastern Shore, but does not act like it. When we look at some of our numbers, when we look at where we place in education, when we look at where we place in other things, when we look at where we place even in race relations and that type of thing, we need to take a very good look at ourselves. I know the city of Salisbury, whenever, has out about the kindness secretary and all that type of thing, and I don't know if Wicomico County as a whole is participating. But being kind and just is making sure that everyone is treated equally as God created them. There's no superior race of people. I know there's a lot of people that may think that, but there is no superior race of people. There's only the human race of people. And for those of you that are elected to office, we'd like for you to keep in mind that once you get elected, that you can't put a lot of emphasis on the party. And I know not everybody listens to what I'm saying, but it's too much emphasis in my mind over the years, I kind of think once people in office, they owe allegiance to the constituents, all of Wicomico County, not just the district that you were elected in, but all of Wicomico County. And for a while, I have not seen that, and I imagine many of my colleagues would say the same about that. So I'm personally disappointed into what I saw today about the salary of someone you asked to be the CEO of Wicomico County. And it started at 85 and has never gone up. And now you bickering about giving $124,000 a year, which is what a committee of professional people gave you. In all the other years that it was recommended, it was never followed. So, and just because a person is elected does not mean they should not get paid an equitable salary. It does not mean that. You look at the work that they do and their responsibilities, not that they were elected. Thank you.
Thank you, President Shiani.
Thank you so much for giving me time to talk. I'm Madeline Adams, and I'm a resident of District 1. Later in the work session, you're going to hear about the Maryland Environmental Human Rights Amendment, and I wanted to give you my thoughts about it. This is legislation that is being considered this legislative session in both the House of Delegates and the Senate, and it's important legislation. As you probably know, the proposed amendment would recognize the state in the State Declaration of Rights that everyone has a right to a healthy environment, and that the state's role is to act as trustee of that right, protecting it now and for future generations. You may hear that this amendment will unleash a flood of lawsuits, but in fact, that has not happened in the 5 states that have had a comparable amendment on their books for the past 50 years. No farm or business can be sued based on the Environmental Human Rights Amendment. Instead, the amendment would provide an incentive for state agencies to enforce existing laws to protect the right of residents to clean water, clean air, and a healthy environment. Furthermore, it would provide an incentive for state agencies to enforce existing laws in a way that would level the playing field for the great majority of business owners and farmers who already care for the environment and obey the law. They would no longer have to compete against the unscrupulous minority who count on cutting their costs by heedlessly flouting the law. This is important legislation that would protect the residents of Wicomico County and would provide an incentive for state agencies to enforce the laws and level the playing field for all of our law-abiding farmers and business owners. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Morning.
Morning.
Ladies and gentlemen of the council, thank you for hearing me. I'm going to make my comments brief on what's already transpired. There seemed to have been some debate on 17% of $95,000. I can solve that for you. It's $114,457.83. that 17% gross to sales. You get that by dividing it by 0.83. Anyway, my comments are going to be regarding...
Yeah, I got him, Joe. I got him, Joe.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ernest Adkins, District 5. I appreciate the ladies and gentlemen of the council and my fellow citizens. I'm a farmer, and I own a poultry farm here in Wicomico County. I'm a first-generation farmer. I'm a combat disabled veteran. My wife is an immigrant, first-generation farmer, and I'd like to begin by addressing this House Bill 596. Let me be very clear about this. The process to become a farmer these days was almost impossible. Look at me. I look like Joe. I'm old. So, sorry, Joe. I can pick on you a little bit.
I know you're related to me distantly, but you don't have to kick it in, okay?
Sorry about that. Just a little humor there. But you're not seeing a lot of people coming into farming. And what I'm hearing is, when my circle of friends are asking me, when are you going to put chicken on the shelf? When's chicken going to go back on the shelf? Well, the process to become a farmer is so restrictive. It took me over 1.5 years to permit before I could ever break ground. The process was exhausting, financially depleting, and for the first 2 years, we weren't profitable. So to sit there, and now I've looked at this proposed House Bill 596, in my opinion, is very poorly written. It's very general. It opens back doors. And in my opinion, ma'am, I'm going to disagree with you. And I think it does open the possibility, though it may not have happened to your credit. You should not open a back door that allows an avenue for chaos, overloading an already burdened court system with frivolous lawsuits. The potential is there. It's sort of like back in the day when you used to leave your doors unlocked. Now, today, I venture to say probably everybody in this room locks their doors at night. So this proposal, I want to know in Article 48 of subsection A, who dictates what's healthful? Who dictates what's sustainable? What if I like cabbage and carrots and the person that's determining this likes Big Mac with extra fries and Diet Coke? Does that person determine my health, or do I get to determine my health? The Declaration of Rights already covers this. We don't need to micromanage this. This is, a lot of people think when we went to our civics classes and whatnot, they all remember life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It says among those are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. How can you have pursuit of happiness? How can you have life without a sustainable environment? How can you have it without a healthful environment? The state already, now I'm jumping over to subsection C. The state already heavily regulates and receives their authority. MDE, Maryland Department of Environment, receives their authority from multitude of federal agencies. EPA, Clean Water Act, Clean Air Act, all of these things these are powers that have been bestowed to the states by the federal government, not created by the state government itself. That being said, these discharge permits it's a very repetitive, it is a heavily regulated and overly supervised process. I know, I went through it. I built mine in 2019. And the discharging and opening up a back door to putting us out of business, which is what I see this happening as. And we're a right to farm state. How many people are finding chicken on the shelf in abundance? Nobody. If you continue to hamper the farmer 1.3%, which comes out to be, and I cheated, Joe, I used your Google to get my information too, but it's 1.3% of the population of the United States. They feed 100%. That includes me. That includes everybody in here. That's 2.6 million people, coast to coast, border to border. That's not 2.6 million farmers. It's 2.6 million people in the farming industry. That includes truck drivers, plant processors, things of that nature. My guess would say you probably have 0.3 as farmers. You put us out of business, we're going to become dependent on other sources of food. I don't know about you all, but I don't know how many people want to grow their own food to include your own protein. But to process that, most of us have forgotten what that's like. I have not. That's why people like me exist. Microregulation of the farming industry is unnecessary and unconstitutional, in my opinion. And if we keep making this a farmer-unfriendly environment, you must ask yourselves, where's your next meal coming from? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other public comments?
Good afternoon, guys. Thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to speak today. You might sense a little bit of nerves. This is a new setting for myself. My name is Josh Mason. I am the owner of Wildflower Estate. It's a venue in Wardella Springs, Maryland, District 2. It's also the district that I reside in, so where my home is. I'd like to start out by speaking briefly about the Senate Bill 646 that you guys are going to discuss later in your open session. The bottom line is it's an alcohol beverage license for banquet facility, which is what I own in Wardella Springs. To give you a little bit of context, I'd like to tell you briefly about myself, and everybody here is super excited to hear about that. But I was born and raised here in Wicomico County. It's always been a dream of mine to build and create in my own community. I don't come from wealth. I don't come from means. It's just my internal desire and drive to do more and be more. I grew up in Hebron as a kid 7 years ago. My wife and I built our home there, where we now are raising our 10-month-old daughter. And it's no secret that obviously I'm driven because I'm here, right? I'm putting myself outside of my comfort zone to speak with everybody and ask for your support for this bill. 2016, I opened Vittles Food Truck and Catering, and hopefully some of you are familiar with that business and how much we did give back to the community. From day one to the last day, we supported youth sports, law enforcement always ate for free, and we gave back in a lot of other ways. And in 2019, we continued to grow and build, and so we built Wildflower Estate that opened in fall of 2019. And that's why I'm here today to discuss Senate Bill 646. I know this may be a small task on your open session for today, but for me, it's a much bigger thing than that. For me, it's about continuing to build a more stable life for my growing family. It's about me being afforded the ability to continue investing in my infrastructure in a district that, quite honestly, has a lot of room for growth. And it also allows me the opportunity to bring more employment opportunities, again, to a district that, quite honestly, could really use more opportunity. So I thank you for your time today, and I would truly appreciate your support when you guys discuss Senate Bill 646. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other public comments?